All right, hey everybody. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. So today, y'all, I've had a couple questions about production timber cutting and falling trees ahead of the mules. A good friend of mine, Jim Gordon, a lot of you probably know him, off of Working Horses with Jim. He had texted me and asked me about that. He said, Zach, why do you cut ahead versus just cutting one or two trees down at a time and then getting them out of the way? So what I plan to do throughout this video is just kind of explain to you my thoughts behind timber cutting and how it affects us here in Tennessee. Okay, so first of all, the main reason why I cut timber is because of the way I have to work. Uh, we work in the evenings while I'm working my full time job, and doing this in the evenings, I only need to bring the mules with me every other day. It makes it easier on the mules and easier on me. So it's better if I can get 6 or 8 trees down, which is about what we can handle in our afternoon, and plus it's pretty close to a full load on Big Red. So what I like to do is cut timber, for instance, like today, for 4 hours, and then tomorrow we come back in for 4 hours and get it all out with the mules. So that's the primary reason I do it. Now, however, I do share Jim's sentiments on not getting, so far ahead that you get a wadded up mess to where it's hard to get in and get the timber out. I start a track of timber at the very back and work my way out toward my deck area so I'm not having to go through all my tops. In other words, you get a hole made and then you start putting trees in the holes. And as you come back out, you have clean ground to work on. So, it helps you in that regards. But also, from a standpoint of production, for me, it's easier to maintain production and keep production up when I cut ahead. I don't know, maybe if it just kind of sets the pace for me or whatnot. But it's just easier. And, I got used to that, cutting ahead when we had machines and staying ahead of skidders. Of course, when you got multiple guys on the job and you got a skidder man chasing you down, the skidder man's going to keep your holes cleaned out for you, so you don't have to worry about getting a wadded up mess as bad. Now, one thing here in our area, we do not have a firewood market. Hardwood timber usually will have big tops compared to fir trees, pine, and stuff like that, evergreen type trees. Hardwood timber will have real big tops, usually, which will yield a lot of firewood. And even if I had a firewood market, it would have to be something pretty substantial to get rid of all of our firewood that we have in these tops, because it's just quite a bit. Usually the butt logs are sold for grade lumber, and then the upper cuts are sold for cross ties or pallet wood. Now, I did have to leave a little bit of a thick hinge on this red oak to make sure that it laid on the side hill instead of going down the hill. So it didn't roll as good coming down through these tops as I wanted it to, but it still came down pretty decent. All right, now before we get too far gone, I just want to show you, I've got this red oak laid on the side hill for a reason, because we're going to have to skid these logs not far up this hill onto the flat. So we don't want to dump it
down the hill if we can help it. We're gonna work the bottom going back out on the next cycle of cutting timber. But for now, we've got this popper right over here, and the apex of this top in this red oak that we just felled is right on the right hand side of that popper stump. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of limbing right there at the stump to get to that popper, but it ain't a big deal. It'll be very little handwork, and we can hook on to the small end of the log and come out with the mules. It ain't a big deal at all. So anyway, I gotta keep rolling. I'll talk to you when we cut. Now we've got two young white oaks right here to the left of the screen. Here's one of them right here. The other one is just out of you all's sight. These three white oaks right here together don't need to be this close. So we're gonna take the maturest one out of the bunch and go ahead and drop it out through there. It's not gonna interfere with anything that we got going on. And you know, this will be some more good timber, a little bit of grade and a little bit of tie, both, for us to get out of this tree.
All right, now here I'm gonna knock this little old tree down that's in front of this white oak. I believe it was a little hickory. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But it would have busted that thing all to pieces and splintered it and everything. So I just went ahead and cut it out of the way. For the most part, I had a pretty good landing for this white oak to fall in. And as you can see up through here around where I'm at and behind me over there, we've got a pretty good little path that we can come down through here with the mules. And that red oak that we put on the side hill is over here behind where you all are at, behind the camera. So it's not too awful far, and we just got to get the logs out there to the edge of the field. So my point is, in this whole deal, is that, yeah, I do cut ahead because of the way I have to work. And by the way, we are back at my regular job. We're back to work this week. So we're back to cutting timber in the evenings on into the night. So the way I have to do it is we cut timber as much as I can get down in the daylight, and then I buck the logs up with my headlight after dark. It's just kind of the way I have to do things this time of the year. It's not as much fun. However, we got to keep things moving to keep money coming in and production going. However, when I am cutting timber, I do not cut in such a way to box myself in. In other words, where I cut so much that it's kind of crisscrossed up to where me and the mules just can't get in there, because you can really make it hard on yourself trying to skid when you got trees throwed on top of trees. Sometimes if it's really crowded in an area and I've got several trees to cut, you know, in a little block, I may cut one or two trees in that block and just move outside of that block and cut some more, you know, on out around it until I get it moved with the mules, and then I'll come back in and cut those on the next cycle. So, you know, you kind of just got to plan ahead a little bit, and as you cut timber for a while and skid and all that good mess, you'll know what's easy for you to handle and what's not, if that makes any sense.
Now look at this stump on this white oak. See, our hinge wood was here and here. We bored out all that heart. We got a good flat stump all the way around. So we didn't waste no wood. We utilized our hinge here and our hinge here. And the main thing is we didn't bust the butt log. Because if you bust that butt log, especially on these higher grade walnuts and white oak, you're losing money. Now y'all, even on this hickory, you can see I pulled some wood fiber out of the stump. Even though I bored in the heart of it and took some of the heart out, this is just typical of a hickory here in Tennessee. You really got to get all that middle out or it's going to pull fiber. I mean, it don't matter what you do, it's going to pull fiber. you got to get that heart material cut out. Hickory trees right here in our area, it's only going to be cross ties. That's it. That's the only market we got for it. And that's the biggest thing about what we got going on today is markets. You know, what sells in your region, what won't sell. You know, competition that you have to compete with in the area. Just because I'm a mule logger doesn't mean I don't have competition. You know, we've still got other loggers around here that are competing for these tracts of timber. And in today's society, I mean, let's face it, money is money. You know, when the landowners need money, just like we do. And they're not going to give you their timber just because you have mules or horses. You still got to pay for that timber and be competitive, okay? And in doing so, you've got to get it. I mean, you've got to get out here and pick them up and put them down. I mean, you can't be messing around much. You got to be on the ball. So anyway, I've got 6 trees down so far, I believe. I think that's right, 5 or 6. I'm gonna cut about 1 or 2 more, and then I'm gonna start bucking these logs. Right down here on this side hill, this is a good place to bring the mules in on the stretchers and tongs. Log cart, a log cart's a wonderful thing in a lot of situations, especially in bigger timber and on long skids. But y'all, we've only got about I don't know, a 20-yard skid up here to the top, and then we're gonna put these logs on old Red and carry them to the deck. You know, there's no point wearing the animals out if we don't have to. The stretchers and tongs are so much faster getting in here and getting turned around, getting around these little bushes and whatnot. And plus, on the side of this hill, it's a little bit safer. You ain't got to worry about turning it over. A log cart will turn over pretty easy, especially when it's on a hill and you're not hooked just, you know, exactly straight and whatnot. You can turn one over pretty easy. So I use what suits the day. You know, we've been working this bottom here, and I'll use stretchers and tongs on this hill. That's what I like. That's what I like to do. Now, wherever you're at, if you're using horses and logging and whatnot, and a cart works for you better, use that cart. That's what I tell people. You got to do what works for you and your animals in your area. Again, different areas is going to call for different techniques, different felling techniques, different amounts of timber that you have to have per day to make a living. Y'all, I'm not out here doing this for the fun of it. I'm out here doing this because I'm making a living doing it. You know, my mules is a big part of it, and I love my mules. I love working them, but I'm not out here just for the mules. I'm not out here just to cut timber. I'm out here to make a living for my family, and in doing so, you got to have a certain quantity each day. 2,000 to 2,500 board feet in my area is about what a mule logger needs, or a horse logger needs, to make a living. If you can do that, you're in pretty good shape. But anyway, I got to beat the dark. I got to go. I did kind of want y'all to see that I am able to get in here and get these logs out where they're at. The trees are spaced out far enough apart that it's not going to be a big deal getting down in here to it. And I'm going to turn this camera around where y'all can see it right quick. And then right up there, near about on top of the hill, is that white oak that we just cut down. Okay, here's this other red oak that we fell when we put it on the side hill, instead of going straight down in the bottom and making it harder on ourselves. Okay, now I'm gonna walk over here and show you these. And I apologize about the dark, but y'all kind of get to see part of what I have to do to make this go. Okay, now we've got a popper right there coming up the hill, and then we got another popper right on the other side of it over there going down the hill. So we're in good shape to where we can get in there and get the logs out and get everything moved. So again, thank y'all very much for watching. I appreciate every one of you. Love you. And look, I'm gonna be praying for you, each and every one of you. I don't take that lightly. I don't say it just to be saying it. I say it because I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. As always, I'm gonna put my email up here on the screen. If you need me, holler at me. Be glad to talk to you. And we'll see you next time.